First of all, I want to commend Sinn Féin on this really, really important motion. And I think we've debated this for a considerable amount of time over the period I've been in this House in relation to disability service for children. And Minister, I think from my point of view, and I think my colleagues, we've always tried to be constructive rather than destructive or kind of, make politics of it. And sometimes it's difficult not to make politics of issues, but on this issue, I think we try to be as constructive as possible. And this issue goes back a considerable amount of time. Like a lot of issues, there's kind of legacy issues in relation to how we treat, children and how we treat health service, public health in relation to the country. And what we're talking about is children being denied very, very basic services and very basic civil rights, in my opinion, and I think everybody else's opinion. And once them services are denied, a child's development can be hugely affected in relation to their life expectancy and so forth. And what we had in the last 17 years was quite an incredible situation where the government were breaching their own laws around the Disability Act. And it even got more absurd when families that were trying to get access to these services had to go to the High Court. And 200 families went through that process in relation to getting access to the basics of services. That situation even got more absurd when a High Court judge a couple of weeks ago said that a standard operating procedure was not compatible with the Disability Act. So a High Court judge says the government essentially, through this act is basically breaking their own law. And then families have to, come before the judge to say, look, we're not getting the service that we need. We have to go through the High Court. So you have this absolutely ludicrous situation that we have in this country. So, Minister, will you kind of review the Disability Act of 2005? And the Disability Act, in its essence, which was, 17 years ago, was actually a good act. It basically gave a time frame on families where they could get an assessment of needs, and that assessment of need was 6 months. And we would all say, if people could get them services, we'd be doing very well. But the reality is very, very different, and the reality is so different. I've said this so many times, but I'll say it again. When somebody comes into my office and the first thing they say is about assessment of needs, my head drops to the ground, because I know how kind of useless I am in relation to that situation, because that family is going through this procedure and this kind of mechanism that they have to wait years. And if families are coming to TDs, then the system is completely flawed. Completely flawed. They should never be coming near TDs. Never coming near TDs. They should be coming to the HSE, early intervention team, and that damn procedure started in place to get them services. So families then are kind of denied, children are denied, and then they're left to their own devices, where they have to sometimes go private, which is very expensive. And even if you go private now, there's huge waiting lists. So the situation is grave as you want it to get. And then coupled with the situation in relation to the Disability Act, and then in real time and in real life, families have to wait up to 3.5 years to 4 years for very, very, very basic service. I'm talking about speech and language, occupational therapy, and you want to have a heart of stone when somebody says that about their child, and they're only 4 and they're going to be 7.5 before they get their service. Like, literally, you come on. Like, this country is a wealthy country. It's not poor by any means. It should have the provision for to treat children in a very, very civil way. So, Minister, my question is, when you sum up, will you review the Disability Act, because in my reckoning, it's not fit for purpose?